Alright, here's the sequel to the 2016 slasher film, Terrifier. Art the Clown is back and he's better than ever, and he's even sporting a new sidekick. Terrifier 2 sets out to do things vastly different than the first film. Well, mainly the fact that it has more of a story to it than the previous film. I don't know, I liked the first one and its lack of story, so how does Terrifier 2 hold up? Let's find out. Terrifier 2 picks up immediately after the events of the first film. Art revives and immediately starts slashing. The movie gets off to a bloody start, setting the tone for the rest of the film, and I'm all in at this point. The humor is also back in full swing, pretty much also immediately from the beginning. After Art gets done with the coroner that was set to examine his body, he goes to the laundromat, removes his clothes, and mimes out reading the paper as his clothes are washed. David Howard Thornton reprises his role as Art the Clown, and, just like the first film, he's absolutely fantastic. His mannerisms really make Art the Clown the cult icon that he is. Art meets a young girl in the laundromat that is dressed as him, and the chemistry between the two is amazing. The girl is invisible to some, but not everyone. Art can always see her though. Anyway, I mentioned that there was a plot in this film, so let's talk about the hero of this story, Sienna Shaw. We first see her getting her costume ready for Halloween. Hey, wait a minute, didn't Halloween just pass in Terrifier 1? Yes it did. Terrifier 2 actually jumps forward 1 year after the laundromat scene. Getting a little into spoiler territory, Vicky, the disfigured victim from Terrifier, was shown prior to the main story of Terrifier, and then again at the end of that film, leading to a confusing timeline. As it's explained in Terrifier 2, the scene where Vicky attacks the talk show host in the first film happens 1 year after the events of the first film. So now. Anyway, Sienna's costume was designed by her father. It's a Valkyrie character that he designed. Unfortunately, her father had passed away a year prior, and this is her way of remembering him. Sienna's brother, Jonathan, is going the more traditional route for Halloween, dressing up as the local murder clown. That's right, he wants to dress up as Art the Clown. He's really obsessed with Art for some reason. Well, it's explained later, but I won't spoil it now. The banter between the actors is great in their own right, and I really like all the characters that the film has introduced so far. Sienna thinks that Jonathan is weird for obsessing over Art so much, even though she's no better. Sienna ends up having dreams about Art, dreaming up a place called the Clown Cafe where Art is the host of a show. The dream sequence runs a bit long, but it's filled with memorable moments, like Art gunning people down with a Tommy gun. Speaking of the movie's length, Terrifier 2 is a lot longer than Terrifier, clocking in at around 139 minutes. As I already mentioned, Damien Leone, the writer/director, made sure to add more story to Terrifier 2 since one of the major complaints people had with the first one was that there wasn't much of a story. I personally think that the lack of plot is a little better. I kinda like my slasher films with not a lot of backstory for the villains. It makes them scarier in my mind. That said, you can't please everyone, and I think Damien found a good middle ground. Back to the story, and skipping ahead a bit, Sienna goes to a Halloween store for a last-minute costume piece that she couldn't make. Who should she run into but old Art the Clown himself? Art terrorizes Sienna through the store by, well, being a goofball. It's amazing how well David Howard Thornton nails the comedic timing. Sienna does her best to ignore Art, but it's obvious he's getting to her. The store clerk tells Art to leave, but Art waits for Sienna to leave before coming back to kill the clerk. We then find out more backstory on the clown girl, Art's victims from the last film, and Sienna's costume. That's actually where I'm going to end my detailed discussion. As one can surmise, the movie comes down to Art versus Sienna, but like other movies of this Hyp3r Halloween, this is one I don't want to spoil. Yes, Terrifier 2 has been out for a little while now, but if you haven't seen it, you should go in blind. And I do recommend watching the Terrifier series immediately if you haven't seen them and are into slasher films or horror in general. Now, on to some interesting tidbits and production discussion. Terrifier 2 was funded via Indiegogo. The goal was $50,000, mostly for the practical effects, but Damien received well over that, with a final total of $250,000. It was also originally supposed to come out a few years earlier, but COVID screwed up the release date. There are also a few cameos of note throughout the film. Felissa Rose, who was best known for playing the role of Angela Baker in the original Sleepaway Camp, plays the part of a school teacher. Tamara Glynn, who is known for playing Samantha Thomas in Halloween 5, and Laura in an episode of Freddy's Nightmares, plays a costume shop mom. The last person I'll mention just made the list, Chris Jericho drinks it in by playing a nurse at a mental hospital. Finally, though, there's even a nod to Hyp3r Halloween. Sienna is watching the original House on Haunted Hill, and it plays the iconic scene that I use in my opening. Now, when I reviewed Terrifier years ago, I didn't really mention the kills. To be honest, I still don't want to for this review. I would not be able to do them justice by describing them. I mentioned that art is unpredictable, and that lends itself to both humor on some occasions and horror on others, and sometimes it's both at the same time. Terrifier 2 is no exception. While the movie was being promoted, there was mention of audiences needing a barf bag, especially for one specific kill scene in the movie. Is that scene really gruesome and intense? Yes, and yes. While the first two films had one kill that was over the top, and I'm not including the third movie because I haven't seen it yet, Terrifier 2's over-the-top kill scene is gruesome, intense, and super stretched out. Art 100% cements himself as a horror legend with this scene, and because of how seamlessly he mixes his sadistic side with his goofy side. And I'm honestly really excited to see how Terrifier 3 attempts to top this scene. So what do I think of Terrifier 2 at the end of the day? Well, I'm pretty sure I already answered that in the opening. But I love this film and series. While Terrifier 2 does stray a bit from Terrifier 1 by adding a story, it's nice having a final girl and a little backstory on what's going on. I just hope that the story doesn't continue to get too in-depth, such that it takes away Art's mystique. In any case, definitely watch Terrifier 1 and 2 if you haven't already.